The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
So hello and welcome to another episode of the Star Sport podcast. I'm your host Matthew Hurley and I'm joined today, as always, by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. The Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose credit union, choose local, choose community. Now on today's show we look back at the Cork teams that were in action in the league this last weekend, and it was good news for all three Cork teams in action because there was 3 wins for the footballers, the hurlers and the ladies footballers as well. We'll focus first of all on John Cleary's footballers who won their opening Allianz League Division 2 game at the 8th time of trying in the last few seasons. Cork beat Meath on Saturday evening by 219 to 21 points. Kieran, you have to say, a good night all round. 2 points on the board. Confidence is up. Brilliant win for the Cork footballers. What else could possibly go wrong after that?
No, in terms of a league start, it was the ideal start for John Cleary and the lads. Like you said there, it was the first. Cork were relegated from Division 1 in 2016, and in the 7 seasons previous to this in Division 2, Cork hadn't won in their opening game in the league campaign. I know there was a couple of draws there, but the rest were defeats. So to get 2 points on the board in the first round, it's huge. It really is. And I suppose you don't want to overstate it either, but what it does, it just starts the season off on a positive. And you were up there, Matthew, like you were covering the game for the Southern Stars, so you got to see the new look Cork firsthand. But this was a kind of a Cork team. Obviously, we've had those 8 departures over the winter, a lot of injuries. Cork missing a lot of players too, and so it wasn't a very positive kind of start to the year for the footballers. So to get that win, it just changes the kind of mood music and the kind of the optimism surrounding the team. So an ideal start. So even like I said, you were there, Matthew. Kind of, what was your first was our first time seeing Cork in the new rules? What was your take on it all?
I think actually, and it might be just recency bias or whatever, but I actually think the Cork players are suited to the new rules. Not necessarily at the 2-point arc or whatever, but just the balls into Chris O played, especially in the second half, from Colm O'Callaghan and Owen McSweeney off the top of my head. The goal that Chris O got, like he's well able to run off his man, and I think Cleary did mention in the press conference, which we will have audio of later on in the show, that the kicking game kind of suited players like Chris Oak because there's no sweepers now. You could kick into space and you let him roam loose. And you look at the forwards that Cork had on Saturday. Mark Cronin scored 7 points, a brilliant display, 100% shot accuracy as well. Chris Oak had 1-4 from play, one of the top scorers from play in the opening weekend across the 4 Allianz leagues, and he was the top scorer from play in Division 2 as well. So Chris Oak, it would suit his game, running off his man. Not necessarily, as I said, kicking 2-pointers. Chris Oak doesn't have that long-range shooting in him, but he's well able to get goals, and goals is going to be massive under these new rules as well. Brian O'Driscoll from Cora had a brilliant performance, including scoring the first ever 2-point arc in the Allianz League. He scored it after 15 or 16 minutes on Saturday evening, which turned out to be the first across the entire National Football League, which is great to see. And Brian scored 6 points. Overall, he scored a 3 and a 2-pointer, 3 from play, which is a brilliant display from Brian himself. Cathal O'Mahony back on the pitch. Like, I think the new rules would suit him. He's a long-range kicker as well. So it's all positives for Cork. I suppose the kick-out was the only kind of bad sign of it. It's going to be 50-50s now from now on in terms of kick-outs. There was one period of the game where a short kick-out went to Maurice Shanley. He thought he was going to pass the ball back to the goalkeeper, but then he remembered he can't pass it back because there'll be a free in front of the post. So he did well to get a line ball out of it, but I feel like the long kick out is the way to go throughout the whole league campaign and the championship this year as well. So the short kick out's dead in the water. But overall, the new rules, I think they actually would suit this Cork team. And with Brian Hurley potentially coming back in the next few weeks, he showed his long-range kicking ability for Castlehaven against St. Finbarrs in particular in the Cork semi-final this year. It's going to be all positives for Cork, you feel. And yeah, like going into the Down game next week, I don't think there's much pressure, is there, Kieran, on the players to necessarily perform well, because like you had that sense last year in match day 2 against Louth. There was a pressure on the players to get a win after losing so heavily up in Ballybuffet against Donegal. This time round, they have a win on the board, a good performance against Meath, and let's see what happens against Down next Sunday. But what do you think about that? Do you think there's much pressure on the Cork players going up to Newry next week?
I think what pressure they'll put on themselves, because I think for this Cork team is to, like we know, the big aim is to get back up to Division 1. And if Cork can go up to Newry on Sunday, come away with a win and have 4 points after the first 2 games, like all of a sudden with 3 home games to come, we're thinking, okay, like kind of this promotion push, it's real this year, because the last couple of seasons we've seen, Matthew, I suppose Cork have had poor starts in the league. So instead of pushing for promotion, we're almost looking behind you very early on in the league. So if Cork can pick up 2 points up in Newry, or even a draw, and have 3 or 4 points going into the third round, that'll leave Cork in a strong place. And I think if we're looking over the last couple of years, what's really haunted Cork teams is that lack of consistency. So it would be great to see Cork, like obviously winning the first game at home, like that's a big tick, as in, yes, can Cork now go and do it away from home? That's a big one as well. So I think the pressure will come from within, in terms of almost an expectation of themselves to show that they are good enough to go beat a team like Down. And Down would be kind of wanting to get points on the board themselves after their result last weekend. So I think it's another game where we're going to learn a lot about Cork. The fact that the 3 away games are up in Ulster, like it's not ideal, kind of for big long trips away. You're talking overnight stays probably, I presume, for those games, and for the fans, for the hardy few souls who are going to make the trip. Like it's a long weekend, or a hell of a long day trip as well. So I think, yeah, it's another big game for Cork, but at least they're going into it now with points on the board. I think that's the big thing. I think, like I said at the start, it just puts a bit of positivity around the footballer straight away, because things can go the opposite direction very fast, kind of, like I said about the players who've left, the injuries and so on, all these new players coming in, even for them, the kind of debutants the last night, I think there was 3 or 4 of them, for them to be part of a winning Cork team in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, I think is important as well. So positive start, and the hope is, touch wood, that John Cleary and the lads can go up to Down on Sunday and just continue this, put 2 wins back to back, then all of a sudden we're thinking, okay, here we go. This promotion push could be on this year.
Especially if Westmeath at home in match day 3 as well. So if they can get 2 points on the board against Down, like anything can happen. Obviously, we're looking way ahead of ourselves at the moment, but it all looks positive after that win against Meath for the Cork footballers. But just, I want to get your opinions on, I know you weren't there, I was there for the Cork and B game on Saturday for the Star, but just in general here, looking across the leagues, there were a few games shown on TG Car and RT. There was some coverage on League Sunday about it as well. There was some media coverage about the new rules. Some people on X were saying that these new rules don't work. The goalkeeper coming out to make it 12 v 11 wasn't great for the rules. There wasn't much complaints about the kickouts, to be fair, but even the 2-point arc, even in the game against Meath for Cork, there was 2 instances, one on either side. Jordan Morris kicked one which looked like to be outside the arc, but was only given as 1 point. Paul Walsh kicked another one that looked to be outside the arc, given as 1 point. And I think the commentary around half-time in the media box on Saturday evening wasn't as if can Cork push on and get the win, or from a me point of view, can they go on and get a well-deserved win or whatever. It was, how is this rule going to be policed at junior level when the arc isn't going to be visible? Like we've seen in games last weekend in Ohm and Tyrone against Derry, where the arc was drawn in the wrong place. Then there were some instances in Corgan Park and Antrim where the arc wasn't drawn to the correct distance and things like that. So there is a lot of stuff to be ironed out in the new rules. But what's your general thoughts after week 1 of seeing a few rules in action?
I think like obviously these rules are needed, like where for football it kind of drifted over the last couple of years. So it's like the sudden jolt, as in the kind of shock to the system that the game needed. And I think we'll learn more over the next couple of weeks and months, because as much as the players and the management need to become kind of used to the rules, so too do the supporters when we're watching it. Like we're all kind of learning here. I think in general it's been a positive. Like you said, there's there's a couple of kind of wrinkles that need to be ironed out. That 12v11 is actually quite a big one, when the team can bring up a goalkeeper to be the 12th man, because what I think we saw that the last weekend is that the team defending is dropping back, and we're getting those familiar passages of play that we don't want, kind of a deep lying kind of defensive team, and the attacking team just kind of passing the ball around, kind of waiting for a kind of an opening to score. So we don't want that. So that's something that will have to be looked at. I thought, as I saw somewhere, someone said if that does happen, how about let one of the three players you've up to go back to make it 12-on-12, kind of. But then it's getting very muddled, it's getting very messy, and it's just extra things for the referee to keep an eye on. But and you've made a very good point in a piece in Thursday Southern Star, Matthew. Okay, whatever about intercounty level, how the hell is this going to work at junior level? I'm thinking at a Carbery Junior B Championship game during the year, if a team scores a 2-pointer that's only given as 1 point, and they draw the game or they lose the game, kind of, you can see the anarchy or the controversies already, kind of, especially at club level, and the pressure it's going to put on referees, because at intercounty you have your linesmen, your referee, your umpires, but go down to the club level, and that's where most of the games happen. Where kind of, I just don't see how this isn't going to be without some controversies at some stage during the club season. So, like I said, there's a lot of wrinkles to be ironed out. Hopefully they can be at the intercounty season, and we all just get used to it. But there will be teething problems, and I think there'll be teething problems for quite a while. Like you said, even in Cork v Meath on Saturday night, when you have 2-pointers that are 2-pointers and only given as one, like, this is intercounty level, like this is the top level, and there's little kind of mistakes, for want of a better word, happening there. So, like, when you drift that down to a referee at kind of the Carbery Junior League or Division, a Carbery Division 4A League kind of game in a couple of months' time, like, kind of, like, what's the pressure that puts on referees? So I think it's going to be an interesting time for that. But I think so far so good in terms of at that highest level. The game needed something. So we just have to, we'll watch with interest the next couple of weeks, see it all pans out.
Exactly. So another point as well to point out in a way is there won't be video evidence for Junior B or Junior A games either. So, like, it's going to be a mess, unless, like, the problems are going to be clarified and things like that over the course of the next few weeks. But I'm sure they will. Apparently, the FRC will look at rules at the end of the league before the Intercounty Championship begins, and then they'll iron out a few things. But by then, like, the county leagues will begin in March, and the league ends in the Allianz League ends end of March, April time. So we'll have to see what happens later on down the year. It should be very, very interesting. But in a while, we'll hear from John Cleary, who was talking to the media after the game against Meath on Saturday evening. And I suppose, Kieran, before we hear from John, he's one man that has to be relieved about this. Like, as you mentioned at the start of the show, losing 8 players in the off-season, the amount of injuries sustained to this Cork team as well. I think John himself would be absolutely pleased to get a win on the board. But then again, there is a game next week against Down, and I'm sure they'll be hungry to get another 2 points on the board.
I'd say the first word that comes to mind for John Cleary last Saturday night, relief. Relief to get a win and get those 2 points on the board, because it's just a good platform for the next couple of weeks. The key now is to build on it. Kind of, if Cork lose their next 2 games, for example, it undoes all the good work of beating Meath at home on Saturday night. So kind of that's what we're talking about, the pressure earlier, and it's kind of that expectation that they put on themselves that they can go away to Down and get the points on the board, because John Cleary wants Cork to be up in Division 1. He's been beating that drum for the last couple of years, and we all know why. Just the more exposure to top level tier 1 teams on a consistent basis that he feels will improve the Cork football team and the squad race standards. So when it comes to the championship, that when Cork are taking on a Kerry or a Donegal or an Armagh or Dublin now, is in like that Gulf isn't as kind of as big as it maybe has been in years past. But it's kind of interesting. In recent seasons, when Cork do play the big teams, they do seem to perform quite well. It's sometimes against the kind of the counties that Cork are expected to win, and I'm saying that kind of with the caveat of Cork aren't one of the big ones anymore, and maybe there shouldn't be an expectation that Cork will go and beat a Loud regularly, because that hasn't happened. But in a game like, let's say, looking beyond Down, like Cork and Westmeath in a couple of weeks' time, that's a game Cork are expected to win. But Cork's record at Páirc Uí Chaoimh in the league in recent years hasn't been great at all. You know, they've lost games where we'd have fancied them to win. So Cork need to consistently beat teams at their own level first. I think that's paramount, you know, kind of whatever about beating Donegal in a one-off game at Páirc Uí Ring last year, super day out, but then go lose to Tyrone, lose to Louth, and you're out of the championship, you know, kind of. So I think it's so important for this Cork team to beat the teams of a similar level and do that consistently. And again, that's a platform to build on. So it's all kind of baby steps in the right direction. That's why we're heading to Down on Sunday. We'll learn more about this Cork team and again the week after and stuff. So I think John Cleary will be pleased with the start, but he'll know it's just a start, you know, kind of, and that Cork have to back this up, and that's hopefully he'll be the man with the Midas touch this season.
Hopefully so. Let's hear from John Cleary now.
John, you said during the week that you didn't know you were excited about the new rules, but you didn't know how they'd line up with your team. What do you think after tonight?
I suppose, look, we had a mixture of everything, really. Do you know, I thought we got some great scores first half, but in fairness, they did as well. And you know, I think it was a game that maybe both attacks were on top. And I suppose goals wins games, and we got the goals. And you know, we knew at half time to be nip and tuck, and you know, two great goals, and ultimately that's what got us over the line. We didn't manage it. I did think coming down the home straight, like we could have pushed on, and we didn't need to be kind of half hanging on there at the end, definitely. And they troubled us big time on our kick-outs, and look, something we have to go back to the drawing board in with. But look, I think the first time since I've been involved the last 4 years that we won the first game. So, you know, there's relief in that, in the 2 points, and I think this kicked 219, and I think the game was up and down the field, mistakes and things like that, but overall we're happy going home tonight. Yeah,
I suppose you mentioned the last couple of minutes and the hanging on, giving away a few frees, they bring them outside the arc. You could lose 4-6 points there very quickly, couldn't you? You
could, yeah, like the olden game there, coming down the straight, even up 5 or 6 points, you're not home and dry. You know, and if you got a goal and a 2-pointer, you could be up 4 points, and next day you're down a point. And I think it'll take us a bit of time to get used to that. You know, even I think we were up 7 or 8 at one stage, and we thinking, look, you know, a couple of 2-pointers and a goal, and they're back in it. And the way the game is going, it kind of goes in phases. You know, you have your phase, and you got to try and make the most of that. And then when you're under the cosh, you got to limit it, and particularly when they had the 12v11 and the goalie coming up there, and you know, I thought in the first half they kicked some great scores as well. Meath did, and had us on the back foot, and that's something we talked about at half time. And but look, at the end of the day, we got over the line, thankfully.
I suppose last one for me, you mentioned their keeper was coming up. You tended not to go down that road. Is it something after tonight?
Well, we did actually. The keeper came up a good bit, but maybe not. You know, I think he's more of an outfield player. You know what I mean? And I suppose the one good thing maybe is that we got to grips with his kick out the second half, and when we got our 2 goals, it was kind of from pressing up really and winning turnovers on their kick out. So look, I think it's a thing we will be doing, and like he's an outfield player playing in goal. Whether that's the line teams will go down, you still have to have a goalie to kick the ball out and to save the shots. So that's the other side of it then as well.
The Mark Roman kick, John.
Pardon?
The Mark Roman kick when it was 14-16, bringing it back outside the arc. I think obviously you see the benefit there, like suddenly it's a 3-point game.
Yeah. And actually we had a practice match here a few weeks ago, and it is a thing we didn't do because you'd forget, and when we saw it in the video, then you know what I mean, so we were kind of nailed on. If we did get those opportunities, look, it's an extra point, and in a night like tonight with, you know, no wind or anything like that, if you're against a strong wind, and in fairness, Mark and Brian kicks, you know, they were nailed on, you know, with their kicks today. So I think, look, in all games, that's going to make an awful difference. Is that, you know, a free's brought up, and next you can bring it out and straight in front of the goal. And look, every free taker now is going to be practicing them every night in training. So, you know, in fairness, Mark nailed, but it was a very important score at the time. Yeah.
You felt you got more kick passes into Chris O'Jones than maybe you would have in the last couple of years in the league, and just the way the game was.
Yeah. Look, you know, there's no sweepers. Kind of because when you have the ball, then you need to attack. with your guys, because if you're going to attack with 10 against 11, you're not going to get scores. So look, I think, as we see here now, unless teams come up with something else, it's a forward's dream to get the ball in quickly. And if you have someone of the calibre of Chris Og, you're trying to get it in as quickly as possible. And in fairness, that's what the lads did, particularly in the second half tonight, yeah.
And just compared to 2 years ago, when you played in there, like you could see the 3 goals that day, didn't score one. Like the 2 goals obviously could change the shape of the second half.
Yeah, absolutely. Goals win games. Like I think it was 3-14 to 19 points here 2 years ago. And we had got the 19 points. It's the opposite there tonight. We got the goals and they didn't. I think they had 14 wide. So, look, a couple of guys thrown in there tonight. There was 3 lads the first time starting for Cork. You know, Sean Welch, Sean McDonald, Neil Lorden. And you know, it was a case of you know, they had to be thrown in. And, you know, I thought they all acquitted themselves very well, you know.
Just result to say, did you find it more enjoyable to manage?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah, without a doubt. You know, it's up and down the field, and it brings the kicker back into the game for scoring. You know, there's a lot more scores. You know, we wouldn't, under the old rules, it's unlikely that we'd have had that high score here tonight. So it's more enjoyable to coach, definitely, and I think it's more enjoyable to watch as well. And the players are loving it as well. So, you know, I think there's a win-win. You know.
How much of a boost to see Cathal O'Malley come off the bench?
Yeah, in fairness, Cathal was back, and then he picked up a knock there, you know, about a month ago, and he was just back last week. So, you know, he hasn't a huge amount done yet, but look, hopefully, it was great to see him on the pitch. He's had 2 awful years, and again, an exciting forward, and hopefully he'll drive on now and get better.
John, what pleased you the most tonight?
I suppose, look, when the game was there for the taking, we stood up and took it, you know. Sometimes in the past, maybe that wasn't the case. And I thought around the middle, Colm O'Callaghan, in fairness, you know, caught a couple of great balls there. Matty Taylor, like, his goal was, you know, outstanding again. You know, he scored one similarly against Dublin here, I think, about 2 years ago in the league. You know, and he drove on. And that's what we asked for, fellas, there at half-time, you know, to look, if the game is there for the taking, go and take it. Don't be waiting and don't be hanging around. And look, maybe there's lessons we've learned over the last couple of years, and, you know, that was pleasing, yeah.
This win now will give you great confidence now go up to Newry next weekend.
Yeah, look, we'll have a look at Down now tomorrow, and you know, Down is supposed to be going well as well by all accounts in challenge matches and things like that. So, and again, home advantage is a big thing. You know, I think probably got us over the line maybe here tonight. We were used to playing in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and we have to go up to Newry now next week, so that's a more difficult assignment. So look, we'll brush ourselves down now after this and prepare for the week and head up there, and hopefully we can do ourselves justice up there.
John, sorry, I've already been asked this, but just given the fact that Cork haven't won a Division 2 fixture since the company got relegated, opening Division 2 fixture, what difference can this make that you're not kind of on the back foot from the very first weekend?
Yeah, sure it does. Like as I was saying there, it's the first year that since I was involved that we did win the opening one, you know, and it puts you under pressure, definitely, and you know there's a bit of negativity comes in, and you know, but I you wouldn't want to take it for granted either, you know what I mean. We lost the first 3 last year, and it wasn't the end of the world either. You know, you just try and recover, and it's game by game, and I think that we will have an awful lot of learnings there as well tonight, and we need to work on it, and the players know that. And look, we have a good few out injured at the moment, and hopefully they'll be trickling back. And if you are without points and you have a lot of new fellas in, it makes it a lot harder then. But I think that'll give everyone that was out there tonight confidence, you know, in the next couple of games, definitely.
Yeah, nice to be in this position.
It is, yeah. It's not the be all and end all, but it's a lot nicer feeling now going home than the last 3 years, certainly.
And just going back to the rules that Fintan was asking you, anything catch you or throw you out there that maybe you hadn't come across, or you saw me do anything, or was everything not as you expected, but everything that you come across maybe in the weeks before? Yeah,
I suppose a thing there I didn't realise is that if the goalie takes too long to kick out the ball, it's a free in. You know, and
with Patrick.
Yeah. We were kind of waiting for the throw in, and that, you know, it didn't. And I suppose there was one we thought Paul Walsh's was a 2-pointer, but we weren't. Yeah. We you know, the referee said he was inside, and the linesman was saying, look, the line isn't marked that well. You know what I mean? So we'd have been looking if we'd been beaten by a point tonight. We could be looking back at that video. But look, the referee, in fairness, tonight was well up with everything. And again, he just said after, look, it's a work in progress for them as well. And I think there was one each side caught with the two players. But other than that, I think it worked well. Like, you know, so one wasn't bad for the first day out on each. And but definitely it's for a team that can kick long and have ball-winning forwards inside.
Was that Brian O'Driscoll's first time taking Freeze League?
Yes.
Did you have a kicking competition? Does he take them for Carrick Line?
He does, yeah, he does. No, he used to take them for Cork and for Carberry, and just the last couple of weeks he'd been just, you know, practicing them, and Chris, we said there's a few going over here, so do you know what I mean? He stood up and said he wanted to take the right-footed kicks tonight, and you know, Mark would take the ones on the other side. So, do you know? Yeah.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
So yeah, we'll cross over to the Hurlers now, and they had a good win over Wexford at the weekend, 221 to 12 points in Wexford Park. To be honest with you, Kieran, this was probably wrapped up at half-time. Cork were 112 to 5 points up, and Wexford had a few injury problems themselves, so easy enough win for Cork. I think the main thing is the Limerick game this weekend in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Should be a big enough crowd. I'm hearing rumours there'll be close to 30,000, maybe even more. Apparently the two stands, the north and the south stand, are sold out in terms of seats. That's what I'm hearing off various sources. So yeah, good win for Cork to start the league against Wexford. But even though Wexford are probably just a step below Cork at this present moment in time.
Yeah, the ideal start is almost to kind of dust the cobwebs off. You kind of word phrase I heard before. I think it was Darragh O'Shea and Kerry. It was like kind of about the start of a league. It's like to get the dirty diesel out, you know. It's in the kind of just to get up and running. So ideal result for Pat Ryan, and like you said, it's all about Limerick and Páirc Uí Chaoimh on Saturday evening. All hail TG Cahir. They're coming on board now to broadcast the game on their app, their website, and on the TG Cahir player. So I think come at the hour, come at TG Cahir as the hero that we needed, because it's crazy in a sense, Matthew, that this game isn't live on TV, and I know there's reasons for that. There's real reasons for that in terms of why this game isn't live. That the RT and TG Cahir are showing different games, two football games actually, on 6 o'clock and 7:30 next Saturday. But it's good that we'll now get to see it. For those who are not travelling up to Páirc Uí Chaoimh will get to see it. But this will be another indication of where Cork are at this stage of the season. We're not going to read too much into it. Like we know the Munster Championship is the big one, and that's where, like, Limerick weren't in action last weekend, did a challenge game against Waterford. So this is their first day out, whereas Cork have that game against Wexford under their belt. So, but I just think, given what we've seen when these two counties go head to head over the last couple of years, there's an expectation there that they'll deliver something special, and hopefully it will be. Hopefully it will be, and we'll have to tune into the TG Cahir player to watch it all unfold.
Yeah, exactly. That live coverage on the TG Cahir player starting at 7:25 on obviously the TG Cahir player. It was the thing, like, Donegal Dublin is on TG Cahir TV, and apparently they weren't obliged to show games at the same time at 7:30 on RT TG Cahir. That was the reason why Cork and Limerick was not shown live. But if this game this is amazing. If the Cork Limerick game wasn't obviously saved by the TG Cahir player, there would have been no hurling games this weekend. It would have been all football. So that would have riled up a few wrong feelings, I suppose, in the hurling communities up and down the country, not just in Cork and Limerick, because these two sides produced some incredible displays. Every neutral up and down the country would love to see this game. So as you said there, all hail TG Cahir, and they're coming to the rescue again. But this weekend, I know it was ironed out, and it is now shown at the TG Cahir player. But is this kind of a lesson? I know we've talked about it for years on end over the last few seasons, that GA games should be streamed and things like that. But you look at, for example, the League of Ireland is rising rapidly over the last few seasons. LOI TV are streaming every game, and you have Virgin Media coming in now, showing a game every week. That's going to come into play as well. Premier Sports are coming into play there as well. The rugby, worst case scenario, that's on TNT Sport. But whereas with Gaelic games, there seems to be, it's on RT, it's on TG Car, selected few games in GA go in the championship, and then there's some games not streamed at all. You look at last year, Cork Donegal wasn't even shown in the football game in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. So should there be an onus there for the GA to have kind of a streaming platform where they could show every game? Is that a bit too much, or to copy the likes of soccer and rugby in this country, or what should the GA do in the next few years?
That'd be the ideal situation. Kind of we've seen where RT and GA are kind of, they're separated when it comes to GA Go. Kind of it's probably an uneasy marriage of sorts. Kind of in talking about conflicted interests with RT being part of GA Go and then showing games as well. But in an ideal world, if every kind of intercounty game could be streamed, as in a GA TV, that would be fantastic. There's obviously the commercial element to that, because it needs to be financially viable for that to work. But there's huge potential there. Like you said, there's like, for if this game wasn't been shown on TG Cahir and even at that, it's on on their player app and website, they have no hurling game. This weekend. That means in the first 2 weekends of the National Leagues, only one hurling game would have been shown on live on TV. I get to an extent where there's maybe when they're making decisions about picking games, that with the kind of the new football rules that they're thinking, that the TV bosses are thinking, okay, there could be eyes on these games here because people are kind of genuinely interested to see what the new football 2025 looks like. You can't forget hurling either, and what hurling will serve up in the months ahead. So it's very interesting, kind of, it's one to keep an eye on in the weeks and months ahead. Just kind of even the ratio of football games to hurling games, because the hurling fraternity, they aren't slow in coming forward, voicing their concern about the lack of coverage for hurling. And we just had the Munster Championship games. They were announced earlier today in terms of, like, there's some really big games that are coming up, in the starting off in April. So like, we want to see those, we want to see those on kind of free-to-air TV. So I think it's definitely one to keep an eye on. But like I said earlier, it's all about TG Cahir come to the rescue. Kind of the bat signal went out kind of earlier this week, and they came up with their answers. So I think there'll be a lot of happy people around the country, because Ireland and England in the Six Nations, that's a 4:45 kind of kickoff on Saturday. So by 7:30, if you're sitting at home and you want to watch something, kind of, if you can flick on YouTube or something on your or kind of on your smart TV and just sit back and watch it, I think you'll be more than entertained with what the Cork Limerick Hurlers will serve up.
Exactly. So, and I was looking at the Munster fixtures just briefly as well, and I think every Cork hurling game in the Munster Championship is going to be on a Sunday. So that means more than likely they'll all be on RT rather than GA Go. We'll have to see about the TV deals and stuff like that, but it is pretty promising for Cork hurling, considering that most of the games seem to be on GA Go last year with the Cork Hurlers. But look, we'll see what happens once the TV schedule will be announced in the next few weeks for the championship. And the last Cork intercounty team that were in league action last weekend was the Cork Ladies Footballers. They beat Westmeath on a scoreline of 3-12 to 5 points, opening Joe Carroll's tenure with a win in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, or Páirc Uí Rinn, should I say. They come up against Galway and Tuam next Sunday at 2 p.m. as well, which will be more of a difficult assignment. I suppose for Joe Carroll, Kieran, job done. Libby Coppinger got 2 goals after recovering from a horrendous injury. That must be a bit of positivity in the Cork camp as well. Galway will be a tougher test, but just good to get off the bat with a win.
It is. This is the first time in 21 years that Cork are in Division 2. Obviously, after back of last season's relegation, where Cork lost 6 of their 7 games, and that's why Cork are in Division 2 this year. We've had a change of management. Joe Carroll is the new Cork manager with his new management team. So very much a fresh start. I think we mentioned last week on the podcast, Division 2 isn't the worst place in the world to be for this Cork Ladies football team now, because there's been that huge transition over the last couple of years where Cork have lost a lot of those stalwarts and experienced players that have backboned the team for the best part of a decade. So for the young players coming on board, to get the chance to win games kind of continuously at Division 2 level, and that's not saying it with a Cork arrogance, that's saying it as in this is a good Cork team that are able to get out of this division and back to Division 1. But if Cork can put a good league together for those young players stepping up to senior football for the first time. You know, that success breeds success adage. They just get used to winning, and it just helps, you know, kind of it changes the mood and so on. You head into the Munster and All-Ireland series. That's why first game of the season at home to Westmeath at Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Cork had 3 first half goals. Libby Coppinger got 2 of them. You know, it just Hannah Looney got the other. It just sets Cork up in. Galway are going to be far different test this weekend. Like, defeated All-Ireland finalists, got relegated with Cork from Division 1 last year, so it's going to be a tough game. And this actually starts a run of just 3 away games in a row now for the Cork Ladies footballers, you know, so it's kind of that's why it was important to get that first win under their belt. Again, like I said with John Cleary and the Cork footballers earlier, we learn more about where this Cork team are after they play Galway on Sunday. But I suppose one of the big news of the last week is Eric O'Shea's back in, Matthew. You know, and that's a big boost to Joe Carroll. Erica, obviously, we had her on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. You were chatting to her. She won the AFLW Grand Final down in Australia. So she's committed to the Cork football team, which is a big boost. Erica, when she was playing before she went to Australia, I think she won an All-Star. Was it her first or second season? You know, she's a real quality player. So to get an athlete of that ilk back into the Cork ladies football setup is a big boost, and hopefully we'll see her in the weeks ahead. Just on Libby Coppinger, she went off injured in the first half against Westmeath, and you kind of not seeing you're thinking the worst, but she's coming back after her hamstring injury that kind of curtailed her 2024 season, but it was just a dead leg. She got a knee to the quad, so that's why she came off in the first half. So touch wood, all going well. We'll have Libby back in action against Galway this weekend. So no, a positive start, and again we'll just see how Sunday plays out and where this Cork team lie after.
Exactly. So, and in relation to Libby, maybe it was Joe Carroll just being safe rather than sorry, just to bring her off. She had her injury issues last year, and just to bring her off after 2 goals in the first half, that makes it even more impressive, to be fair. So a good win for the Cork ladies footballers, and hopefully they get another win on the board against Galway this weekend. Just before we leave the GA chat, you were at a game here in the Curly-Vree semi-final last weekend, Hamilton High School Bandon. Their Curly-Vree campaign ended last weekend. They lost to Mercy Montauk on a scoreline of 2-19 to 5 points. They can prepare now for Simcox semi-final against Coláiste Cullen Ballincollig in the next few weeks, I suppose, from Hammy's point of view. It was disappointing, but context is important here. This is a superb Mercy Montauk team. They reached the All-Ireland final last year. They won the Curly-Vree at a canter last year as well. They probably will be favourites to win it again. But Hammy's a brilliant Curly-Vree campaign ended, but they can look forward to the Simcox semi-final now.
That's it, yeah. Someone kind of quipped the last day at Mallow that this Mercy Montauk team wouldn't look out of place in the Sigerson Cup, you know, as in they're just a really good team, Like you said, defending champions. They'd beaten every team, I think, en route to the semi-final by an average of 20 points, you know, kind of. So this is always going to be a kind of a mission improbable, a mission impossible for Hemmys, and so it proved. Montauk had 4 points on the board in the opening couple of minutes, and it was the 16th minute before the Hemmys got their first score from a free, and it was 1-13 to point at half time. You know, like the game was effectively over because this is it's a really good Montauk team. Paddy Lane up top I think he got 111-112 the last day. Their midfield pairing of Ben Murphy, and I can't think of his
Daniel Kirby, is it?
Oh Jesus, like they were. Like the platform that they gave Montauk was so impressive, and it's just a really strong Montauk team. And they had 4 fellas there between the 2 midfielders, Jacinta Forward and Paddy Lane, a full forward, kind of who'd all probably be on the Kerry under 20 team. You know, like they're of that ilk, and you could see they're just a quality team. You could see they're definitely further along the road than the Hemmys are. But the Hemmys didn't let the heads drop. You know, kind of they scored 5 points. They were 4 of those came in the second half. They kept plugging away. They'll take positives from this, because if you look at this is their first championship defeat of the year. You know, they're kind of through to the Simcox semi-final. In the Curly-Vree campaign, they'd beaten 2 Kerry schools to get there. They'd beaten Pobble Skull in Inverskena from Kinmare, who lost the other semi-final in Mallow last weekend. They also beat Pobble Skull Corkadrina from Dingle, West Kerry, kind of serial winners of this competition. So the Hemmys have beaten 2 Kerry schools, and I was chatting to Paddy Lorden after, who's the Hemmys manager, and he says like they can take a lot of positives from this campaign. 26 players from the school played in the Curly-Vree in this particular campaign. they've beaten Kerry schools, so that's almost that. Not saying Cork schools have an inferiority complex when it comes to playing Kerry schools in the Kearney area, but the Hemi showed that Cork schools can beat Kerry schools in this competition. And for the development of these Hemi's players to go back to their clubs, they've played 4 or 5 games at a very high level, senior A football level, colleges football in Munster, so that will help their development as well. So okay, disappointing to lose the Kearney semi-final. Like you said, the context is Mount Hawk are an exceptional team, but the Hemis can take positives, and they've that Simcox Cup semi-final, and if they get through there, we will have an all West Cork Simcox Cup final this year, because Skibbereen Community School had a fantastic win earlier this week against Gloucester and Spirit Nave. So here's hoping we'll have an all West Cork Cup final in a couple of weeks.
Hopefully so. We had a West Cork, all West Cork final a few years ago when Skib beat Clonakilty Community College, and hopefully we'll get another all West Cork final in the next few weeks as well in the county season as well. And just briefly as well, obviously big game in the rugby coming up this weekend. Ireland against England, 4:45 on Saturday. I suppose the main question coming out of this, Kieran, we'll probably know by the time this podcast comes out, or maybe when most people would have listened or watched this podcast, but who starts, Jack Crowley or Sam Prendergast? This has been a debate lively throughout the winter. What's going to be the answer, do you feel?
Like we're kind of firmly in the Jack Crowley camp. We've been big fans and big supporters of him from day one, and it's not just supporting him for the sake of, oh, he's a West Cork fella in the Irish setup. Like he's proved himself at international level. Like he played every minute in the Six Nations last year when Ireland won it. He stepped into Johnny Sexton's boots, which is a huge job. Huge as in, like, the shadow that man kind of cast over Irish rugby was incredible. So Jack is he's kind of answered nearly all the questions that have been posed of him. Then you have Sam Prendergast, one of these kind of his potential is huge, so we know, I think the team has been named on Thursday lunchtime. The kind of soundings that were coming out earlier today is that the Ireland coaches are leaning towards Prendergast, which would be hugely disappointing for Jack Crowley. But then I suppose if that is to be the case, hopefully he'll come off the bench at some stage, and he'll be there to close out the game, and he could yet be Ireland's hero. We could see this Crowley v Prendergast battle just continuing for the foreseeable. You've 2 really talented number 10s there battling for that same jersey. So we just have to see how it pans out. So we'll know more once that team news comes out, and we know a lot more once we see how Ireland and England go on Saturday afternoon. But Jack Crowley is, like, whatever happens, is in the challenge is there for him, is in to kind of take his game to the next level. I think it's against Northampton a couple of weeks ago. He was superb for Munster. So if he can keep going in that direction, he's putting pressure on the Irish coaches, as in, how can you leave me out? But you do wonder that kind of Leinster orientated, that Leinster heavy kind of Ireland squad, is it easier for them just to slot in Prendergast, who's kind of so comfortable with these Leinster players? He plays it in a club level, so it makes it easier for him at international level as well. But like I said, we'll see on Thursday once that team is named, Matthew.
Exactly so, and hopefully Jack does get the start over Prendergast. But as you said, the team is going to be announced in the next few weeks or the next few days, and we will find out if he does start. We'll take a quick break now, and after the break, we'll look at what's in Thursday's paper.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
So it is that time of the week again where we look at what's in this Thursday's Southern Star Sports section. So what is on offer for readers this week, Kieran?
Obviously, we've the intercounty covered with the Cork footballers, Cork ladies footballers, and the Cork Hurlers all winning last weekend, and also looking ahead to their games this weekend. We have a big interview with Libby Coppinger. We mentioned her earlier in the podcast, so I spoke to her about her comeback from the hamstring injury that ended her 2024 season. So it was great to see Libby back in action for the Cork footballers against Westmeath. It was in early May last year where she suffered a hamstring injury that needed surgery 2 weeks later, and that just wrote off her entire 2024 campaign for county and club. So chat to Libby about the road back and how she's going to juggle the dual workload this year off the back of an injury last year, kind of a serious injury. So there's an interesting read there. I think sticking with Camogie for a second, Matthew, you've spoken to Jack Mead of Colosh and Turbert. They have an All-Ireland Camogie Colleges Senior B semi-final in Ballinspittle this Saturday, so hopefully home advantage will make the difference there. Also, the County League fixtures were announced last week, so we've got a local news on that and all the opening fixtures. We've the Musqueam GA had their awards the weekend, so Chris O'Jones was the big winner there. So we've news and pictures from that, and also Kilmacabea GA Club had their victory dinner of late, and we have a picture special from there. Also news of the Carberry under-21 football draws with that championship starting the weekend after next. Switching to rugby for a second, Clonakilty Community College had a huge win in the Munster Junior Cup last week against Ard Scoil Reach. A big shock win there for a B school to knock out an A school. And I've caught up with their coach, Michael O'Regan from Clonakilty, to talk about that win and their big Junior Cup quarter final coming up next week. Switching to rowing for a second, Rowing Ireland had their big awards last weekend, and great to see that 4 awards came home to West Cork. So Paul O'Donovan took the senior male rower of the year award, which was one of the big ones. And also great to see Kilmac-Simon Rowing Club won the Rowing Ireland Club of the Year. So huge congrats to them. And just on soccer for a second, I caught up with John O'Donovan, the former Ardfield underage soccer star, who is now signed up with Cove Ramblers for the year ahead. People would know John. He's been with Cork City for the last couple of years, but now he's swapped across the Cove and he's hoping for a big season there. While we also have a match report from Baltimore advancing in the Beamish Cup. Dan was the man again. Dan McGowan got the winner against Drina Rangers B. We also have schoolboy soccer news, including the West Cork Academy pulling out of Munster competitions, and also West Cork League review and preview. So absolutely loads in there for our readers on Thursday morning.
Exactly. So, and of course, as well, in the Southern Star this week, there is the Business Award magazine inside this week's Star, and it includes the category finalists for 2024, the West Cork Business Ambassador and Lifetime Achievement Award winner for 2024, and the Fáilte Ireland Wide Atlantic Way Tourism Business of the Year will be announced in the mag as well this week. So be sure to check out the Southern Star this week for that magazine, and of course the sports section in general as well. And as usual, if you are further afield or can't make it to the shops, you could subscribe to the Southern Star e-paper and get the Southern Star on your laptop, tablet or phone. Just go to www.southernstar.ie/subscribe, enter your details, and you'll get an exact replica of the newspaper for less than €2 per week. As always, thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast, and thanks again to our sponsors at Access Credit Union. If you've enjoyed this, please remember to rate, review and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and we will be back again next week. Until then, take care.